Not Another Monday is the 7th episode of the 5th season of The Golden Girls. This is directed by Terry Hughes, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. It's a beautiful episode, definitely funny, definitely some really strong comedy moments, but it's also, for the right reasons, because it's so powerful, rather difficult to watch. It starts off with Rose diapering a turkey because she wants to practice before the baby comes over. Which baby? Well, we'll find out in a moment. But first of all, Sophia comes in from a funeral with her friend Martha. Martha is played by Geraldine Fitzgerald, and we'll come back to that character in a moment. We then find out that Rose is actually looking after the baby of a couple who goes to her church. The couple are going camping, so she's agreed to look after the baby. And once they've left the baby, Rose, Blanche, and Dorothy trying to work out if the baby is a boy or a girl, because it's just called Francis. Francis the girl or Francis the boy? Well, there's only one way to find out. They take off the diaper and instantly it pees. And I loved their facial expressions. I thought the reaction was absolutely fantastic. And it turns out it's Francis the boy, and they call the baby Frank going forward. Sophia is then meeting Martha in a restaurant, and it was painfully relatable because Sophia is trying to get onto the bar stool and she's too short. I am, according to Google, no more than an inch taller than Estelle Getty, so I know the pain of trying to clamber onto a bar stool. But unlike Sophia, I would never want somebody to lift me up onto a bar stool. That kind of physical contact is not something I seek out. But that's how Sophia gets on. It's funny. I rather enjoyed it. And then things take a serious turn. And Martha explains that she's afraid of being alone. She's fed up of the pain. She wants to end her life, and she wants Sophia to be there for her while she does it, because obviously she doesn't want to spend her final moments alone. And yeah, it's heavy. Thankfully, we bring the comedy back up, and I think the rate at which we go back and forth between that part of the story and the baby's story is mostly just pure comedy, I think was very effective and very well done. And unfortunately, the baby is unwell, so they have to call the doctor. Blanche gets dressed up, and the doctor comes over, and Blanche is doing goodness knows what, sprawling all over a chair, and she tells the doctor, "I was born to heal," to which Dorothy responds, "Heal, Blanche," which I rather liked. And it was a really nice scene. And then they decide to sing Mr. Sandman to the baby, Dorothy, Blanche, and Rose. And it was a really great performance, and they really get into it, and it was really energetic, and I rather enjoyed it. And Sophia came through and just gave them a look, which was so funny. It's nice that they managed to get a little bit of comedy out of Sophia in this, even though Sophia is definitely not feeling in a very funny mood, and that's very evident. And she talks with the others and finally tells them what Martha has asked of her. And Sophia said something that I thought was really great. Not for the first time. Sophia often has a lot of really great quotes and words of wisdom, and on this occasion, she says, "It's not whether you agree or disagree with somebody, it's whether you can be there for that person when they need you." And this is Sophia's predicament, because to her, she doesn't have to agree with what Martha is doing, but her friend needs her in her time of need, so she should be there. And I guess the question is Sophia encouraging her to go ahead with this if she agrees to be with her? Or will Martha do it anyway? And will Sophia feel guilty for not being there with her when she does it, if she finds out, of course, after the fact? And that is a huge, huge dilemma. That is a horrible situation to be in. And in a way, I kind of don't like that Martha put Sophia in that situation, but at the same time, I can understand why Martha would want Sophia there for her. And Sophia ultimately goes to be with Martha, and she talks with Martha, and very quickly she manages to find out that Martha is not 100% confident that this is the right decision. I think it became quite quickly apparent that it's not that Martha doesn't want to live anymore. It's that she doesn't want to live in pain and live a life of loneliness. And because she can't find a way out of that situation, this seems like her best option. But we realise that might not be the case. There might be alternatives, and she's not 100% confident. And as Sophia said, she can't change her mind tomorrow if she goes through with this. And Sophia said to her, "How about letting me be here for your life?" She wanted her there for her death, but why can't she be there for her life instead? And I think there's also a great lesson there. And I don't think Sophia's done anything wrong. I want to establish that. But I think there's a great lesson there that we might have people in our lives and we might not spend enough time with them. They might be lonely and we might not realize it. And that's not to say people have to force themselves to spend time with people, but I feel like Sophia wouldn't see it as a bad thing. If she knew earlier that Martha could benefit from additional company, I absolutely think Sophia would be one of the first people to offer that. Maybe the only person by the sounds of it, but I think Sophia would have certainly done that. So there are some really strong takeaways from this, and ultimately the biggest takeaways are, of course, for people in Martha's position. Because as Sophia shows, even if there's the tiniest thread of doubt, you can't change that decision once you've done it. So I think it's very powerful. I like that none of the comedy, I mean, there were a few tiny little things here and there, but none of the comedy really came from Sophia's part of the story. And I think they got the balance really well. They were able to address a really serious topic while still keeping a large chunk of the episode quite lighthearted, mostly focusing on Blanche, Dorothy, and Rose. And I think they did a really great job with finding that balance. And at the end of the episode, Martha has, of course, agreed to not go through with this. And Sophia picks up baby Frank. And here we have a little baby with his whole life ahead of him. And I don't know if this is what the episode was suggesting, but my reading of this certainly is, let's start positive mental health from that young. Let's start looking out for people from as young as possible. Obviously, the episode is, in my opinion, showing that here we have an older woman, Martha, who maybe no longer has family and friends buzzing around her anymore. So I think they're showing that it can happen to older individuals, but it can happen to anybody of any age. And I think from as young as little baby Frank, it's time to start looking out for each other and making sure that people have what they need and what they want to continue living. And I think it's a very beautiful episode. Difficult to watch in places, but still a really strong episode. And ultimately, as is usually the case when it comes to quite serious episodes of The Golden Girls, I really can't fault Not Another Monday.